Here's what traditional security professionals would not tell you. They advocate putting up expensive alarm systems, motion sensor floodlights, reinforced doors with several deadbolts, and large security business signage in your front yard. Mango's the reality check. You're effectively broadcasting to every potential criminal within a 3-block radius. This residence contains assets valuable enough to justify extensive protection measures. Right now, I'm going to show you a revolutionary approach that completely reverses traditional security thinking and transforms your property into the absolute last target anyone would consider during catastrophic scenarios. I am David. Since 2012, I have started exploring security vulnerabilities. What I am about to share is known as the invisible fortress approach. It has given me unwavering confidence for over 10 years, and it will profoundly change your concept of residential protection. The underlying principle here is obvious, but it defies everything conventional wisdom teaches. Optimal defense does not imply making your home impenetrable. It requires making it invisible. And even better, it gives the appearance that it has already been completely robbed and has nothing worth getting. Consider this from a criminal's strategic standpoint for a second. When social order deteriorates and people become more desperate, they will deliberately seek simple targets with obvious benefits. They choose to direct their limited energy and accept risk toward areas that clearly contain provisions, potable water, vital supplies, and possibly electricity from operational generators. They are not going to spend time on properties that appear abandoned, have been plundered, or are occupied by families in the same state of despair as the surrounding populace. Before we go any further, let me make something quite obvious about this method. This is not advocating for a life of constant anxiety. This is not turn your home into a dismal fortification in which you are constantly suspicious. This entails being intelligent and tactical so that you can keep your normal lifestyle until something legitimate happens, at which point you can seamlessly transition into a discrete operational mode that protects your family's safety. I've spent over 10 years honing these methods, and I'm going to show you exactly how to implement them in your own home, whether you live in the suburbs, the countryside, or even an apartment complex. Let's begin with what I call the aesthetic contradiction principle. Most individuals have been conditioned throughout their lives to keep their properties in good repair, maintain appealing appearances, and show ownership pride. That's ideal for normal circumstances. However, amid catastrophic events, that flawlessly manicured lawn, those pristine ornamental gardens, and that new exterior painting all become disadvantages. Proliferation, they communicate normalcy and available resources in a world where neither exist anymore. So the first step in building an invisible fortress is determining what makes properties appealing to desperate people, and then gradually deleting each of those attraction characteristics. Take a fresh look at your neighborhood right away. Missions you're someone who hasn't eaten in 72 hours and is looking for a house to break into. What catches your attention? Solar panels gleaming on rooftops? A well-kept vegetable cultivation area full with fresh harvests? Outdoor possessions that appear modern and expensive? Security surveillance is very visible. A home that looks to be overly well kept and arranged in comparison to its surroundings. These are what I call prosperity indicators. And during an emergency, everyone becomes vulnerable. This is where things become fascinating. We are going to implement strategic decline. I am not recommending that you allow your home to decay. I propose making it look to be degrading while actually strengthening it underground, where no one can see. Let me explain what I'm to 17. I began experimenting with this concept on my specific property. I stopped edging my grass so meticulously. I let the plants grow slightly longer between maintenance visits. I purposefully left some fallen foliage in the outer sections of my yard. I erected a protective covering over sections of my perimeter fencing, as if I were addressing damage, but I couldn't afford to make genuine repairs. From the road, my site began to look like it belonged to someone in financial difficulty. But do you know what I was legitimately doing around that same time frame? I replaced every short fastener in my entrance frames with 4-inch fasteners that penetrated deeply into the structural supports. I was placing security laminate on my windows, which is absolutely invisible but makes the glass extremely tough to compromise. I used steel reinforcement plates to fortify my garage entry from the inside. There's a significant distinction between being tough to penetrate and appearing unworthy of penetration. The first alternative just encourages committed individuals to work harder or recruit more accomplices. Erodus, the second option, directs them to go directly past your home and disturb someone else. That is the fundamental distinction that most people utterly overlook. Let me share another example from my personal experience. My neighbor has installed these big, evident security cameras throughout his home. Premium quality equipment is plainly obvious. Mismatch it probably cost him many $1,000s. You know what message that conveys? It lets everyone know he's concerned about security, which implies he presumably has something worth protecting. Meanwhile, my security cameras are hidden in counterfeit electrical enclosures and landscaping components. Nobody realizes they're there. Crimson looks into my property, they assume it is a simple target with no surveillance. But I have extensive coverage of every approach trajectory, as well as motion-triggered recording that has been in operation for years. I've legitimately filmed people checking homes on my street, and you can see them slow down at my neighbor's house with all of the apparent cameras, definitely considering it, while they hardly acknowledge mine because it appears like there's nothing worth the effort. Crimson, let's talk about something that most security practitioners utterly overlook, and it's one of the most serious mistakes I see people make. It's what I call the signature management trilogy. That's your lighting, audio, and olfactory signatures. In traditional times, these factors are not given much thought. However, after the electricity has been turned off for 7 days and most homes are darkened and silent, any trace of activity from your home becomes a beacon that attracts attention from long distances away. Illumination management is critically necessary, and most people misjudge how far illumination spreads at night. I want you to do an evaluation tonight. Turn off all of the lights in your home, save for one little lamp in a back room. Now, go outside and walk down your street. You'll be surprised at how conspicuous that single illumination source is, even through window coverings you thought were thick enough. On a truly dark night, I've seen a candle flame from more than 200 yards away. That is not an exaggeration. When there is no ambient lighting from street lamps, neighboring homes, or passing automobiles, even the smallest light source stands out like a beacon. The solution consists of multiple layers of blackout coverage, and this is exactly how I do it in my home. The first layer is reflective insulation, which can be purchased at any hardware store. It has a reflective metal side and a standard insulating side. You want the reflecting side facing inside your room, and the ordinary side facing out the window. This forms a barrier that reflects thermal energy and illumination back into your space. But do not stop there. Add another layer of large moving blankets or heavy window covers. Make that there are no gaps around the edges where light can slip through. Seizing spring-loaded curtain rods that press firmly against the window frame, and I overlap the blankets in the middle by at least 6 inches. Here's something I discovered from a painful situation. You must try this in daylight from outside. Have someone inside move a bright torch or lantern around near the windows as you stand outside at various distances and angles. You'll probably notice illumination spilling from unexpected locations. Fix every single leak point, because even a little line of illumination around the border of a window might alert you from a great distance away when everything else is dark. Acoustic emissions are your next challenge. And this one demands changing your household's behavior, which is really more difficult than making physical changes to your home. When civilization's typical background auditory environment evaporates, every sound you create travels extremely far. There is no more traffic rumbling, the air conditioning units are no longer humming. no more lawn maintenance or music from the neighbors. Suddenly, every footstep, every conversation, and every dish that clinks in the sink is audible to anyone passing by your house. I began training my household on this several years ago by adopting what we call silence hours. Every Sunday evening, from supper till bedtime, we practice moving silently through the house and chatting in low voices. Cushions, the kids thought it was absurd, but I turned it into a competition. Anyone who produces unwanted noise must give $1 to a container, and at the end of the month, the person with the least money in the container gets to choose our next household activity. It's been running for 3 years, and my children can move around our house like phantoms when they need to. That capability could literally save their lives someday. Beyond behavior, there are physical changes you may make. Foam weather stripping around doorways reduces sound greatly. Carpets and floor coverings reduce the sound of footfall. I've even placed acoustic foam panels behind some of my wall decorations in areas where we'd spend time during an emergency. Nobody realizes they're there, but they absorb sound exceptionally well. Line back is to establish these changes before you need them, because trying to modify how your household behaves during an emergency is practically difficult. Now let's talk about smell, which always surprises people. You're preparing dinner, which may be lentils and rice or preserved stew, but nothing fancy. But when everyone around you is hungry and hasn't had a hot meal in days, that aroma travels extraordinarily far and acts as a notification. Here's food, come and get it. I discovered this during a week-long electrical outage in 2019. We were preparing lunch on our portable burner in the kitchen, with the windows closed and the ventilation fan on. Within 20 minutes, neighbors I hardly knew requested access and asked if we had any additional provisions. These were fine people in a small situation, but they were pulled to our house by the smell of cooking. In a true collapse scenario, you have to anticipate that the same aroma would attract many more hazardous individuals. Crimson Protect's pre-treatment is the preferred method because it seals in all scents. When you do have to cook traditionally, timing it carefully. If others in your neighborhood are still making dinner, your scents will mix in. If you are the only one preparing food, you will stand out. Weather is also an important consideration. High humidity traps scents near the ground. A breeze swiftly disperses them. Precipitation helps to hide cooking odors. Begin paying attention to these trends now so that you can make informed decisions later. Here's something else I do that most people never think about. I keep a range of fragrance masking items on hand for deployment. Dryer sheets might help conceal food odors if you're cooking inside and need to move around the house. Coffee grounds cooked on a stove emit a strong aroma that can disguise other cooking scents. It may also indicate to others that you are running low on coffee because you are burning it rather than drinking it. Pine-scented cleaning items may indicate that you are trying to clean and sterilize rather than prepare and eat. Timber are minor details, yet they add up to either remaining concealed or being discovered. Now I'd want to share with you something that has transformed the lives of many people in our neighborhood. I know we've been addressing some weighty topics, and the reality is that becoming properly prepared can be overwhelming, especially if you're just getting started. You're thinking about security, provision, storage, water, and power, and it all adds up quickly in terms of cost and complexity. So I put together something designed to aid with one of the most significant difficulties people face, providing security. It's a fully free guide that teaches you how to turn $50 into a 90-day food supply for your family. This is not a theoretical list of expensive freeze-dried meals. This is actual grocery store supplies, particular brands and pricing that you can buy right now and keep in any home or apartment. The guide includes a precise shopping list, 37 essential preparedness items that most people never think to stockpile, simple storage techniques that work anywhere, emergency meals that require no cooking fuel or electricity, and even a convenience store snack that can be exchanged if things really go wrong. I use this approach personally, and hundreds of people have told me that it was the drive they needed to eventually preparing rather than just thinking about it. It is entirely complimenting. No catch, no credit card required. Please let me know where to mail it, and the link is either in the description or pinned to the comments. I truly believe that everyone should have at least 3 months of food security, and this method makes it possible even if you have a limited budget or believe you don't have enough storage space. Okay, let's get back to making your home invisible. We must consider early warning systems because you cannot protect against a threat you do not know exists. The good news is that you don't need expensive high-tech equipment to detect when someone is inspecting your home. Some of the best alarm systems are silent, use no electricity, and cost very little. Here's one of my favorites, which I've used for years. Take some empty aluminum canisters, such as those used to package carbonated beverages or beer. Balance them on thin strips of wood or metal along your fence, at gates, under windows, or anywhere someone would try to sneak in. When someone runs into your barrier or attempts to jump over it, the containers fall and make noise. But here's the clever bit. Even if you don't hear them fall because you're sleeping or they fall when you're not home, you'll notice that they've been disturbed the following morning. That means someone was prowling around your property, and you should be more attentive. Another approach I utilize is what I refer to as the powder trap. Simmons sprinkle a thin layer of flour or extremely fine soil in pathways where people may walk. Under windows, along gates, along the side of your home, or wherever that is not visible but will be used by someone attempting to approach silently. Check these places every morning. Any footprints or disturbed areas indicate that someone was there. The wonderful thing about this system is that it resets itself. Simply smooth it out and you'll be ready for the next night. I've caught people inspecting homes in my neighborhood several times using this exact strategy. Trail cameras are excellent value if you have a little budget. But here's the key. Do not make them obvious. Place them inside counterfeit rocks. Disguise them as standard outdoor fixtures. Place them somewhere unexpected. The goal isn't always to capture someone in the act. The idea is to know they were present, so you may alter your security and awareness accordingly. I have trail cameras set up to cover every approach to my home, and I examine the images every morning. Most of the time, nothing strange occurs, but twice in the last 5 years, I have observed someone definitely checking residences on my street. And because I was aware of it, I was able to tighten my security and keep a closer eye on things until the threat passed. Amiento's activated lighting is tricky because it can reveal someone's residence. I use them on barns and in areas distant from the house, but not near the main doors or windows. It is sometimes preferable to know someone is present without them being aware of it. That provides you options and initiative, which you will lose if they know they have been detected. Now, let's go over defense in depth. Because even with the strongest invisible castle constructed, someone may choose to test your defenses. This is where several levels of security become critical. Consider your property to be an onion, with each layer serving a different purpose and saving you time. Everywhere kayak could be 50 to 100 yards from your home. This is where you can regulate how people approach your property. Use landscape strategically. That pile of foliage you've let to build is actually redirecting people away from one side of your house and into an area where you have better visibility and defensive advantage. Security camera placement in your yard is strategically placed to obstruct specific approach routes and force people to pass through locations you've designated. I discovered this when researching military defense postures. You do not place obstacles at random. You use them to guide people where you want them to go. In my instance, there is really just one good way to get to my house from the street that does not involve climbing over or around considerable barriers. And that one approach, which is the most apparent from inside my home, provides me the widest sight lines and provides the least amount of cover for anyone approaching. They don't realize it, they simply believe they are taking the easy road. But I've purposefully made it the simplest path so I can see them approaching. Your yard is another layer. More clear lines of sight are vital here, but you also want to remove any areas where someone may hide and plan their next move. I know people who carefully place thorny bushes around windows and fence lines. They appear ornamental, but they are actually painful obstacles that slow people down and produce noise when they try to push through them. Rose vegetation, barberry, and hawthorn. These plants have sharp thorns that can dissuade even determined intruders. Know the distances between your windows and other places in your yard. I've actually measured and marked these distances in my thoughts. That tree line measures 75 yards. That fence corner measures 30 yards. The mailbox measures 40 yards. Why does this matter? Because knowing if anything is 20 yards away or 50 yards away can mean the difference between effective defense, wasting ammunition, or missing completely. Pensions these distances at the range on a daily basis, so the information comes naturally. The next layer is your residence itself, which relates to all of the concealed reinforcements we mentioned previously. Each entry point should be hardened in ways that are not obvious from the outside. Entrance frames with 4-inch fasteners that connect to wall supports, security laminate on windows, strengthened strike plates on entrances, and enhanced locks, particularly on sliding doors, which are notoriously weak. The idea is to make your home far more difficult to break into than it looks to be, giving you valuable time if someone does attempt to force access. I'd want to emphasize something here. Time is your most important defensive resource. Every minute someone spends attempting to enter your home is another minute for you to prepare, get your family to safety, ask for assistance if it is still available, or set up a defensive position if it is not. If they are unable to gain entry within 30 seconds to a minute, most offenders give up. They prefer easy targets over hard work. So even little upgrades to your entrance and window protection can spell the difference between a successful burglary and the crooks moving on to someone else's home. A safe room, also known as a hardened position, is the final defensive layer. This is often an inside room, preferably on an upper floor if you have one, that has been reinforced and filled with supplies. This chamber should have a solid entrance, preferably one made of solid core or steel if possible. It should have a strong lock that cannot be readily kicked in, and it should have everything your family requires to survive for at least 3 days without leaving the room. I'm talking about water, at least 1 gallon per person each day. Provisions that do not require preparation or refrigeration. A bucket with a lid that can be used as an emergency toilet, because when it comes to safety, dignity is forgotten. A way to communicate with the outside world, whether that's a cell phone with a backup battery pack, a radio, or another method. First aid supplies, including any prescription medications your family requires. Flashlights with extra batteries. And yes, weapons if you're trained and comfortable with them. This safe room has 2 purposes. If invaders get timbers into your home, it's where your family retreats to wait them out or seek aid. However, it also serves as a command center for monitoring what is going on in the rest of your home and property. I have a little monitor in mine that displays feeds from my security cameras. Seguintes, even if I'm trapped in that room, I can monitor what's going on and make informed decisions about what to do next. But here's something important that many people overlook. Sometimes the best defense is to avoid fighting altogether. It may disappear altogether till the threat has passed. Having various hiding places and escape routes can literally save your life in this situation. Imprisoned inside your home, you should have at least 2 or 3 places for your family to hide that are not evident to someone conducting a fast search. A reinforced storage area with ventilation. The space beneath the stairs if it is large enough. Or a crawl space that has been made reasonably comfortable. These hiding places must be equipped with necessities. Minimized water, some supplies, a way to communicate silently, a restroom if you'll be there for several hours, and calm activities for children to keep them from becoming restless and noisy. The key to good hiding places is that you can hear what's going on in the rest of your house without being discovered. You must be able to distinguish between someone simply taking visible things and leaving, and someone performing a careful search because they suspect people are still inside the house. That knowledge affects whether you remain hidden or go to your escape path. Because sheltering inside is not always the solution. Sometimes, especially if someone is setting fire to your home, or an organized gang is doing a thorough search, leaving totally is the safer alternative. You need escape routes that do not use the main entrance, and everyone in your household should be familiar with and practice them. Second-story windows with rope ladders that you've used before and know work. Basement exits that lead to regions with adequate coverage. If you have crawl spaces that lead outside, you can work with them. My family goes over these routes twice a year, including in the dark with flashlights, because that's when you're most likely to need them. Every escape route should lead to a specified meeting location away from your home, where you may regroup and assess the situation. Our family meeting place is a neighbor's storage building, approximately 100 yards distant. We have authorization to use it. They are aware of our plans, and we have prepared a small bag with some basic supplies in case we need them. We can observe our home from that vantage point without being noticed. Exclone decide whether it is safe to return, and if not, we have a secondary rally point another quarter-mile distant as a backup. And here's something I need to express clearly because it's critical. Your home and belongings can be replaced, but your household cannot. Never put people's lives at danger for belongings, no matter how much time and money you've spent preparing. I know people who have spent years stockpiling supplies, and I understand the emotional commitment to that investment. But in a life or death scenario, possessions are simply possessions. You can rebuild if you're still alive. You cannot return from the dead. Allow me to swap viewpoints and address something that receives far too little attention in preparedness circles. How can you keep healthy and sane when you've been stressed for weeks or months? Because your body and mind are not built to operate in perpetual alert mode. And if you don't actively attempt to maintain a feeling of normalcy, people start making deadly mistakes. In a collapsing situation, a simple cut or infection might become life-threatening if necessary medical care is not provided. Every household should have at least one member who has completed a rigorous first aid course. And I am not talking about basic CPR instruction. I mean a wilderness first aid or tactical medicine course that teaches you how to treat serious injuries with limited resources. Your medical supplies should go much beyond sticky bandages and pain medications. Learn how to properly cleanse and dress wounds. Line back to spot infection symptoms early on. Learn how to make medical supplies when you run out of the real thing. For example, clean tampons can be used to efficiently pack wounds. Sanitary pads make great big bandages. Honey has natural antibacterial qualities and has been used medicinally for thousands of years. Sugar can be used to treat wounds in certain circumstances. Adhesive tape can help hold wound edges together in a pinch. These aren't perfect solutions, but they're better than nothing, and understanding them can help save lives. Mental health is equally important as physical health, and it is often disregarded. Individuals suffer psychological breakdowns as a result of prolonged high-stress situations. Children in particular may be afraid or traumatized since they are unable to comprehend what is happening. Adults can develop depression, paranoia, or make foolish decisions out of fear. The solution is to stick to a routine as much as possible, even when everything else has altered. Simple things like reading a story together by candlelight, playing calm card games, or establishing a bedtime routine might make everyone feel more normal and less scared. If you have young children, explain the situation in an age-appropriate manner and assign them little tasks. Children need to feel productive and that they are contributing. It allows them to process the issue and feel less helpless. Adults require this too. Having a sense of purpose and control helps to alleviate the sensation of helplessness that paralyzes people during emergencies. Assign duties and obligations to everyone. Rotate duties to prevent burnout. Make sure people get enough rest because exhaustion leads to poor decisions, and make room for people to express their feelings and fears because suppressing them only makes things worse. I've also discovered that sustaining modest indulgences has a significant impact on morale. Perhaps it's your favorite tea or hot chocolate mix. Perhaps there are unique treat provisions. Perhaps it's a child's favorite blanket or stuffed animal. These gadgets do not take up much space or cost much money. However, they bring psychological consolation that is far more significant than their physical worth. Now let's talk about sustainability, because most people plan for catastrophes that may last a few days or even a week. However, actual societal disintegration might last for months or even years. This implies you need to think about more than just storing supplies. You should consider what happens when those resources run out. Sidelines your own provisions is critical, but during an active emergency, you may be unable to maintain a regular outdoor cultivation area without drawing attention. Indoor cultivation and sprouting are very useful in this context. You may grow sprouts from beans and seeds in a container on your kitchen counter using only water. They contain fresh vitamins and nutrients that cannot be obtained from preserved foods. Small herbs such as basil, cilantro, and parsley can be grown on windowsills to add nutrition and flavor to otherwise bland emergency supplies. I store several large bags of sprouting seeds in my storage. Mung beans, alfalfa, broccoli, and lentils. They can last for years if kept cold and dry, and they can be converted into fresh food with just water and a few days of time. That is sustainability that does not rely on a food store or sophisticated infrastructure. Water is obviously necessary for sustainability. While water should be preserved, you also need multiple methods for purifying water from natural sources or problematic tap water. Boiling works, but it needs fuel. Water purification tablets are effective, but they will eventually run out. Raleigh How to Build Sand and Charcoal Filters can offer clean water eternally, as long as you have a water source to use. I have designs and materials for 3 different types of water filters, and I've actually built and tested each concept to ensure I understand how it works and what its limitations are. Power is another issue related to sustainability. Crimson, even if you have a generator, you most likely do not have enough fuel to run it consistently for months. Solar panels are great for the environment, but they are also very visible and can make you a target. My solution consists of smaller, portable solar systems that I can utilize discreetly. I have solar panels that can be positioned in a window facing the sun without being visible from the outside. In Prism, I have solar battery banks that can recharge small electronics, and I've been experimenting with a bicycle generator that transforms riding into electricity, because it's sustainable and requires no fuel other than calories, which I can get from my food. Real sustainability requires many solutions for each crucial requirement. Water from 3 different sources was purified using 3 distinct procedures. Provisions are made from saved agriculture supplies as well as supplemental sources such as fishing or foraging if available in your location. Power from solar panels, hand crank generators, batteries, and other sources. Disproportionately never rely on a single solution for anything crucial, since single points of failure will inevitably fail. Look, I know this has been a lot of information, and you may be feeling overwhelmed right now, thinking you can't possibly adopt all of these ideas, especially if you're just getting started with emergency preparedness. So as someone who has been doing this for over 10 years, please allow me to provide my perspective. Garage, you do not have to do everything properly or at once. Begin with the fundamentals. Make your home appear less enticing to criminals. Stop being so obsessive with it. Allow some little traces of wear to show. At the same time, strengthen your covert security. Replace those shortened fasteners in your entry frames. Apply security laminate to a few crucial windows. Missionary create some quiet habits within your household by scheduling occasional silence hours. Each modest step you take increases your safety and preparedness compared to the vast majority of people around you. Even completing the basic illumination, sound, and fragrance control we outlined puts you ahead of practically everyone who believes that being prepared entails simply acquiring a bunch of equipment and calling it okay. The invisible fortress method is not about becoming paranoid or transforming your home into a fortification that makes your neighbors think you've gone insane. It's all about intelligence and strategy. It's recognizing that the finest fight is one you never have to have. When criminals look at your home and decide it isn't worth the hassle, you've already won without firing a single shot, putting anyone in danger or causing property damage. That is a complete victory. Restrain, remember that preparedness is a journey, not a destination. You are never done. You keep learning, growing, and adjusting as your circumstances change. And as you learn more about what works and what doesn't, connect with other like-minded people in your community, if you can do so safely. There's power in numbers, and you can't handle everything alone, no matter how prepared you think you are. Miss Essential, do not allow fear to dictate your life or make decisions for you. The goal of preparation is to offer you peace of mind and confidence that you can manage whatever comes your way, not to keep you continually concerned about every potential threat. Live your life, enjoy your household, chase your aspirations, and do so with the serene confidence that comes with being prepared. Before we wind up, I'd like to remind you of the complimentary guide I mentioned before. If you haven't downloaded it yet, it's called the $50 90-Day Provisions Supply Guide, and it's received rave reviews from people who say it finally got them started with provision storage when nothing else did. It is entirely complimentary. The link is either in the description or pinned to the comments. Discussed, and I truly believe that everyone watching this should have it, because provision security is fundamental to all other aspects of preparedness. You can't focus on security or safety if you're concerned about where your next meal will come from. If this video has changed your perspective on domestic security, please like it so that the platform can share it with more people who need to see it. Subscribe if you want more practical preparedness content that is relevant to real people in the real world rather than a fiction disaster scenario. And show this to someone who needs to see it, whether it's a family member, a friend, or a neighbor. Let me know in the comments what your top residential security concern is and which strategy from today's video you intend to apply first. I read every comment, and I frequently create movies based on the questions and subjects you all bring up. Stay safe, stay smart, and remember that the best prepared person is the one no one knows is ready. I will see you at the next one.